So, hi, welcome to the Tricolor Cyanotype online workshop, Experimental Photo Festival 2025. Okay, so now I think everything is okay. And well, to introduce a little bit the technique, I've learned this technique with Agora. So she's a master of this technique. You will receive, if you haven't received it yet, a PDF with all the information, the tips that I've been working during these past 2 years that I've been working with this technique. Also, you will find on the first page of the PDF the link of the book of Annette Golas, Cyanotype Toning, that I recommend if you really want to work with this kind of technique, the cyanotype, and seeing all the things that you can do with it. This is a great book. Also, you will see from when we come a little bit more into detail today, there are some things different from how Annette is writing in her book and what I've been doing, because different photos that I developed with her in Zurich, the outcome was really different in Barcelona. So because the humidity was different, the water is different, the pH is different, so I had to adjust to many things. And also, depending on the photos that you're going to use, you will see that you will have to change several curves in Photoshop, but we will get into there. Also, as Laura said in the introduction, if you have any questions, please just ask, raise the hand or wherever, and I will try to do my best to answer them. Just so you know me a little bit better, I'm Maria. I'm a photographer from Barcelona. I'm currently living here. I've been living abroad for 2 years in Brussels and in Paris. I've been doing different exhibitions around Europe. My work has been mainly about cyanotype and wildlife photography, and now I'm getting more into detail with Tricolor Cyanotype with new different projects. Although my background is I'm a scientist, and maybe you will see it from the PDF how I wrote it down and everything, like a lab book. I'm a neuroscientist. I did my PhD in neuroscience. So I have both of these things. They're part of creative. So I try to look to change, and there are some parts of the technique that I like it to be. I don't know, that the technique surprised me, but then I need to follow the rules sometimes to reproduce and to learn how can I do it better. So hope this is useful. And okay, so we'll get into it. Okay. So different materials that you will be needing for the tricolor cyanotype. Of course, you will need your emulsion, the cyanotype. We have already prepared it here. I will not get into details on the basics of cyanotype, but if you have any doubts, please you can reach me, and I can get into detail with that. But I assume that more or less everybody knows or have practiced before cyanotype. So I will have the emulsion already prepared, a cup, of course, so the emulsion, and your brush. We will be working, I've been working with different papers. I have to say that the one that has been working better for me is a Hanemule Platinum Rack. I've been trying with many others, try to be acid-free, as of course with cyanotype and these kind of techniques are the ones that work the better. They're a little bit expensive, I know, but they are really prepared for this kind of techniques. Also, it's very important that the paper is 300 grams minimum, because we are going to soak it a lot of times into water, into hot water. So we are going to bleach it. We are going to, with just one paper. So we need it to be thick paper. Okay. More things that we are going to use. We have the mother roots that you can buy online. Okay, so you have already the powder of the mother roots. You can see them here. I have it prepared already. Also, you will need sodium carbonate that you can buy in any supermarket. Platinum rack from Hanemula, the paper. Hanemuli platinum rack. We can send it afterwards if you want all these links where to buy stuff and the kind of paper, if it's okay for you.
Sorry, Maria, these brown things, what it is?
These are the mother roots.
Okay.
These are the mother roots. This is what we're going to use for the magenta layer, for the red.
Okay.
Okay, and this is going to be the most complicated part of all the technique, you'll see.
Where do you find?
This is online. I buy it on a German webpage. I will send the link. I think I don't have it on the PDF, but I will make sure you can have the link. But in fact, is when you write mother roots online, the first thing that you can find is this webpage. But we will send you all the information about all the things that you need and where you can find them.
Thank you.
Okay, so and you can buy different quantities. Normally I buy 1 kilo and you can have for a lot of copies. So you will see that for one photo, more or less, I use 25 grams. Okay, so you can do many copies with just one of the bags. We have them around. Yes. Okay, so yeah. Sorry, I forgot that we got it here. For example, we bought this 1 kilo. This is the webpage, is Kremer. I don't know if you can see it there. Kremer is the is the webpage where we buy it, Kremer Pigmente. And we buy 1 kilo, and I have for a lot of copies with this kilo.
Someone is asking me with any other plant give red or just mother?
There are more plants that give reddish, let's say. This is, you can find this information because I just tried it with mother roots. And Annette, I know she has tried with many others, beetroot, many others, that it should give you a reddish, but when you bleach it and when you try to work afterwards with the layer of cyanotype, it gives you different kind of outcomes. And from the different toning that Annette has tried, mother roots were the ones that were working the best. Okay. So, but don't worry, we will get more into detail with the mother roots, which is, for me, is one of the most complicated parts of the technique. Also, we need calcium carbonate to adjust the pH. You will see while we are working with the mother roots, it's very important the pH that we'll have. And depending on the water from your hometown, you will need to adjust it to a pH of around 7-ish. So you will require to do it more acid or the other way. So depending on what we need, if it's more acid, I bought this from a pet shop for the fish tanks to regulate the pH. Here.
Okay. So
I forget that I have to to camera.
Because the front one is reverse, so they don't need it.
Ah, okay.
But it's okay.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And then you have the calcium carbonate that you can find in any supermarket and or drugstore, and you can buy it with no problem, depending on the I repeat the pH of water. So another thing that you can buy or from a supermarket or a pharmacy is the pH like this. You can see it. pH, okay. Sticks that it comes like the pH level. Okay, so we will be looking for around a 7th, but we will get into detail with that, but just things that you will need. And I have to say that the sticks of test or for the pH, I use them every single time, and at least in Barcelona, every day, every time, depending if it's raining, if it's too hot, if it's whatever, where the water comes from, it changes so much and the outcome is super different. Okay, so I highly recommend to have one of these at home. Okay, so to start the Tricolor Cyanotype, it's Annette highly recommends. I've been working with the 2 ways to soak the paper in hot water completely before starting the technique. So you just soak it in hot paper and just leave it dry until it's totally dry. And this is because as we are working with cotton paper, the cotton paper dilates a little bit. And sometimes as we're going to use different negatives on top every time, sometimes after the hot water, you will see that the negatives are not exactly in the same position. And then you can have like, it looks like the photo is like moving. But this can be solved by soaking the hot water, so preparing already the paper with hot water beforehand. Okay, and then we will get into details with how to prepare the mother root, although you have it in these first pages, but we will see. The next page you have on the PDF is where Annette is explaining in her book how she prepares all the Tricolor Cyanotype, because I thought it would maybe be interesting for you guys to have it, although there is a lot more of information on the whole book and different tips that she has been using. If anybody of you is interested. So first of all, to start with the Tricolor Cyanotype, once we left our paper soaking into water, we have to prepare our negatives. For the Tricolor Cyanotype, as the word says, we need 3 different, sorry, I forgot about the cameras, 3 different 3 different negatives from the same photo. How are we going to get there? I don't know if we can share the PDF. Sure. In this case, because you will see that you will have all the steps, but I just want to share this part with you guys, just in case you have any doubts, but you will see it's super easy. I'm not a master in Photoshop. I learned how to do these little things, and that's it. Okay, so if you can go to...
Can you see? Everyone can see?
Everyone can see the PDF?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so let's move to another one. This one. Okay, so here I prepared like a little step by step because, as I said, I'm not user friendly with Photoshop, so I need to have this, so I have it in mind. So, so you have a step by step how to do it. If you have Photoshop or another photo editing program, I think it's basically the same, because they are the essential tips to use it. So you will see that we will have to work in a 16-bit photo. And we are setting the profile. This is important to adopt 1998, because we're going to work with these colors that these profile gives to us, because there are many types of profiles. The colors that are working better, that are given the better results, are with this profile. And as usual, when we are working with a cyanotype, we invert. But as different when we work with conventional cyanotype, we don't go to a black and white. We keep it in color and we invert it from the color, as you can see in step 3. Okay, we can move to step 4. Okay. So now we have to go to the tone and saturation, for when we see the old. I took the photos. When you see old, this one is plus 15, and then the bright and the contrast. I normally do bright plus 10, and it does it a little bit higher. So I'm sharing how I do it now, and then of course you will have to adapt it if it's the case to your different kind of pictures. The contrast, I recommend, and Annette does it the same way, plus 100. When we have this, you will see a very disturbing image. We have to flatten the image. We have to put all the layers together, because we're going to divide the channels. The division of the channels are the ones the negative that we are going to get afterwards. Okay, so once we divide the channels, if you can go to the next page, it's important to, we will have them, of course, in black and white, and it's very important to change the mode from grayscale to RGB. Okay, in the 3 layers, don't forget, because as we know from one photo, we have 3 layers. It's important that we have the 3 layers with RGB. And we assign if something has changed. Normally it doesn't change, but just in case, to be sure that the profile, the color profile, is Adobe 1998. And then we get into the curves, which for the past year, they have been kind of a nightmare. So I'm sharing the latest curves that I've been using. Of course, if you have different outcomes, if you see that your photos maybe are not good with these curves, we can check them. You can send me images to see if we can redo your curves and look for better ones. You will also have in the book the curves that Annette used to work with, that were the first ones that we work with, and then we readjust them to my photos. And so I wrote down the numbers, so step by step, the numbers that you need to put on your curves. And then you can save those curves, so you don't have to write them every time. So you just can save them, and then you just load the curves in Photoshop. Very important is, and I tried to write it down in colors, the blue image from when you divide the channels, you have 3 different channels. The blue image will be the yellow layer. So you will see blue. It was really blue in the Photoshop, but it's going to be like this. No, it's the yellow layer. Then the green will be the magenta. And finally, the red is the cyan or blue layer. Okay, it's very important that we name them right, that when we print them, we know exactly which one it is. Okay, so we name them, we save all the 3 different images, and when we go to the copy shop or you print it at home, make sure that you print it in color, not black and white. Okay, but I guess most of you that are doing cyanotype know all these tips, so just in case.
There is our question.
Of course.
She doesn't understand the numbers of the cubes. You can show it.
Okay.
I think it's something that you can show on Photoshop, so I don't have to get
Yeah, it's on Photoshop. If you go to, I have them. There is here in a net. In the curves, I can show it like this. Si lo podemos hacer un poquito más grande. La primera tira. Siguiente, siguiente. Más, más. Cuando acabe los míos. Siguiente, siguiente, siguiente. This one. Here. This is the first ones, the number of the curves that the net was using. If you can see the image on the lower right, the PDF. You can see how you put the dots on the curves, and then you have like two little squares in the bottom, and you can write the two numbers, the 0 and 120, 280 and 280, and the image that you will see is the one that you are seeing in the on the lower right on Photoshop. But if you have any doubts when you're using Photoshop, we can also check it together, and we can write the numbers together if you need. There is no problem.
And then you say it in RGB.
Yes. RGB.
And there is another question. Vanessa is saying that her cubes for one color cyanotype can be shared with other people using a different printer for correct exposure unit. Sure.
Say it again.
You can read it. Yes, because maybe it's more technical.
Are the cubes to related to the exposure unit you're using? My cube for one color cyanotype can be shared with people using different printer exposure unit. Yes, there is no problem because depending on the printer shop that I go, they're not using the same. But if you save them on your images in GPG, the information will be kept all together, and I guess it doesn't make any difference on the unit that you are using. If I'm understanding right the question.
Next, I don't know if you want to continue with the PDF or showing the three negative.
No. Yeah. Okay. No. I can show the negative. Yes. Yes, it was only the part of the Photoshop because I couldn't share the Photoshop, and I thought it was better that you guys have it on the PDF also. What saying?
Yeah, just one because there was one question if it's one negative, say no there.
No, there are three negatives. Then when you go and you print it, you will have the three negatives, which I named them here. I don't know if you can see it. It's the blue, yellow, and magenta layer. Okay, so as you can see, they're different and they complement each other. So as you can see here, for example, the yellow, we have information that is, I don't know, how can I show it? Like this, or different information that we have on the blue, if you can see the difference. Okay, so it's very important that you know which one is each. Okay, so now we have our three negatives. So we will start with preparing. We prepared the paper. We soaked it before in hot water, and I'm just going to use this part of the paper because the negative is small and we don't need to use a bigger paper. So, as you all guys know, we are just going to prepare the first layer of cyanotype. So we put here this is the emulsion already prepared. As I said before, we keep it here in dark. And then we are going to coat the paper. Also trying to coat the paper as, of course, as gentle as possible, but as uniform as possible, because it's important. Of course, when you are using for the magenta layer, you will see if there are parts that had more exposure, so more chemists, then they will be more red, and the image will not be uniform. If that is the outcome that you're going to use, that is great. But if it's not what you're expecting for, then try to coat as uniform and as gentle as possible your paper. Okay, so I'm painting a little bit the table. Sorry for that. Do we have any tissue or something so I can? Okay. Normally I use something to cover the table. Okay, so now once we coat our first layer of cyanotype, you will see for all the steps of the process, you will always need to paint with cyanotype. Okay, because it's going to be all the time our emulsion for the whole process. So the first negative that we're going to use is the magenta one. Okay, this is very important. So, and also you have it on the PDF that we are going to send you already have. You have each step and which one you have to use before. Thank you. Okay. Well, then I will keep it better, okay? I'm sorry for that. So, okay, so we put our negative on top. And well, we of course we have to let it dry. But today we're going to go a bit fast. So when it's dry, our paper, as usual, as all the cyanotype process, we just need to use, well, no, it's not dry, but we're going to use glass and our lamps, so we make sure that the UV is exposed exactly the same in all the parts of our image. Okay, so once we have it like that, we can expose it to the light. If in your hometown you don't have a lot of UV light, you can also use, I have here UV solar lights that you can buy, and you can make your own UV set at home, and it's very useful. I have to say that the outcomes, I prefer it when I do it on the sunlight, but of course I live in Barcelona and that is easier to do. But the only bad thing about using the sunlight is that you cannot really control. Then if you know your negative, if you know how to coat your paper, and you're using the same curves all the time, more or less, you know the timings on the UV machine. Normally, for the magenta layer, I use with the UV light, I use 10 minutes, and then I duplicate with the next layer. But with the magenta layer, I'm going to use 10 minutes. Okay, once we expose our negative, as we have to do it for all cyanotype, we have to clean it. So now you put it in your tray with water. Imagine that it was exposed, and now we just have to clean it. And this after around 10-12 minutes minimum, because we have to make sure that we are taking all the chemists that we are not going to use, that it's not been exposed. We have to take it all. And so this is going to be the result of the blue layer, the magenta layer, sorry. But so this one is the first one that we are going to tone. Do we have copy? Yes. So now we have to get the magenta. To get the O sea, sí, déjala aquí, déjala aquí. Gracias. To get the layer, when we have it like that, we need to bleach it. For bleaching it, we are going to use another tray, and normally we need to use hot water, but not boiling water. This is important because we want to see the difference, but bueno, no pasa nada. But as we are doing it here, and I have all the layers prepared, we are going to use boiling water. But when you are doing it at home, it's preferable that. ¿Me puedes poner más agua ya a hervir? Sí, que ahora sí que vamos. Sí, gracias, sí que lleva. Gracias. So now we are going to bleach. In our case, we're going to use hot water, but I recommend not to use boiling water, but hot water. If it's boiling, no, don't worry, just you leave it a couple of minutes. So we're going to use a little bit of the bleach. We're going to use it like that. I'm using bleach. Okay, I don't know if you can see it here, the bleach. Okay. So now we are going to introduce, after that we coated and we cleaned for 10, 12 minutes, as I said, we're going to put it inside the bleach, and you will start seeing how it's bleaching into yellow. The
Bleach, no? In powder.
see the sodium carbonate.
Okay. Because you said bleach, washing soda. Okay.
Washing soda, yes, sodium carbonate is the one that you have the first. Maybe I didn't repeat this first part that I said at the beginning. Yes, sorry. So yes, so you can find it on the supermarkets, and it's in powder without problem. Okay, so once it's fully yellow, we are going to take it out, and we are going to clean it a little bit from the bleach, from the sodium carbonate. We're going to take it out. Be careful because it's hot. And then we are going to put it on a clean water. Now we just have this tray, so I'm going to use the same one, but you need to use clean water, tap water, normal tap water, and just clean it a little bit from the sodium carbonate. And now we are going to prepare the mother roots. Okay, so we are going to use boiling water for the mother roots. And I'm going to take this tray over here. And normally I use, well, I hope guys you can see it. I use a recipient. This is the one that I had at home, and it was the most easier to use because I was going to keep the mother roots. You will see, and different people have tried how to soak previously the mother roots. And there are people that are soaking it for 24 hours before, 48 hours before. I normally keep it 15 hours before, 15 minutes, sorry, before toning, because it's the results that have been working better for me. If you guys try it at home and you can find another way and a timing, just let me know. But I'm just sharing the one that has been working better for me. And it's going to be, sí, ya lo podemos sacar, sí. Just for 15 minutes. So as I said before, for one photo, I normally use 25 grams of the mother root. So you have it over here. You can use one of these kitchen utilities, then don't use it to cook. just keep it for photography. But are the ones that worked before. So, come on. Yeah, because it's a very old pot. So are you ready? Weight this one, it's 25 grams. So I'm just going to put it all inside. And I'm going to boil it. So more or less 1 liter of water, of hot water. During 15 minutes. Another thing very important about the mother roots is that when we are going to soak the paper into it, we need to keep it not boiling, but hot. Okay, so the photo doesn't need to be boiling water, but it's very important that we maintain a high temperature during the toning process. Okay, so we have our image over here that was in water, and we are preparing our mother roots. Once we waited the 15 minutes, we need to pass just the water, the tainted water, to the sink, to the tray that we're going to soak our photo. Why are we doing this? Why are we preparing the mother roots beforehand? If we don't do that, we are going to get a matte stain, so it's going to be kind of brownish. So that is not what the outcome that we are looking for. So we need to clean from tannins beforehand because it's too concentrated. So we need to clean this. So that's why we are preparing the mother roots. Is there any question?
Just one.
Okay.
Can you use chalk roots rather than powder?
First of all, it's more expensive to use. And also, if you want to get the maximum color, it's better that you use the roots. It's easier, it's faster, and you can get more pigment. Is any other question?
Thank you. No, they were saying that you can get chalk roots in Canada. In Canada, you can get it.
If it's better for you, you can try it. I tried straight away with this like this because the other way was really expensive. Maybe if you get good results with your water and everything, then it's great. Maybe it's a new way and you get, I don't know, new colors. So yeah, just try it along. Okay, so imagine that we had this for 15 minutes. Okay, so be careful. It's going to be boiling water. So now we have to filter. I'm using this filter that is from Canela of like clothes. So it's you don't have like the holes are really small, so the powder don't come through. Okay, so it's like cooking, or well, it's more not cooking. It's more like for clothes than for cooking, but it's better than the ones that you use for cooking, that the holes are bigger and the powder goes through, and then you don't really get just the water, the tainted water. You're getting the powder, which is what we are trying to avoid. Okay, so we're just going to filter. So this is like a toning process, normal toning process, bleaching and then just preparing hot water with the powder that is going to give us the tone that we want to get. So this is what we're going to do with the mother roots. Okay, so we take it out. And now it's a moment when we have to control the pH. You can control it through all the process. It's when you're doing the first tries, I think it's the best option to control exactly the pH of your water that you're going to use, because if you go to another country and you're trying in another studio, I don't know if you're going to do a residency or whatever, and the outcomes is not what you're expecting, my first option will be the pH is changing, so just check the pH to all the process. So this is the I don't know if you can see the colors. Okay, it's like that, the colors. I don't know if you see like that. So now we are going to soak it in, and we're going to see how it changes. Just wait a couple of seconds, and we will get. Okay, so you can guys see it. So you saw it before, and now it's changing. I don't know if you can see it here. Okay, so we can check it here in the test paper strips. I don't know if you should see it better here or here. Okay, you can see the numbers on the top depending on the color. Okay, and here you have when it changes and it goes higher. Okay, so here we can see that we have a pH very low, around 4.5. So you just need to check. You can see it, right? Es aquí. Okay, so you can see it here. You can just put it on next to each one, and you can see more or less where your pH is. So if you want it to be higher or lower, so if you want it to be lower, like less than 4.5 or where we are now, so no, so now we want it higher, but if you're looking for different outcomes, you need to change your pH. And here is when you have to work or with calcium carbonate or with the carbonate hardener that it's called. Okay, this one that you can look for the pet shop, and this one that you can find it in any supermarket that it's for sodium carbonate. It's for cooking. Okay, so now it's very, very low, and we want a pH around 7. It's the pH that we can get the best result. If you are going for lower pH, you are going to get, let's say, more purple, which is more what we are looking. But if it's too acid, that it's when you go lower pH, you're going to get very strange not purple, not even red results. It's going to be very orangey results. And then if you go way too high, so if you have to alkalinate with the calcium carbonate, then you will get very brown outcomes. That is also what you don't want to get, or maybe you want. This is a result. You can play with the pH of the water. So if you want to get more or less those red outcomes, then we should go for the 7, for pH of 7. So now we are not going to the test because it requires a while, but you just need to add or calcium carbonate or the carbonate hardeners until and do the testing on your strip test until you get the pH that you want. Once you get it, remember that it has to be hot, the water. You can put your image inside. I recommend it to put it slowly because as the water is going to be hot, it's going now we didn't really boil it, so it's going to be hot, so be careful with your fingers. You are going to have a lot of bubbles, and the bubbles are of course air that is going to block that the water, the staining water, is coming and and doing the reaction with the emotion that we've put before, no? The cyanotype emotion. That is what we don't want. So we need to be careful. We put the photo inside. We cover our tray with aluminium, with I don't know, with something to cover it. For example, now that we are using on the workshops are these trays that go into the oven. So, okay, these trays that go to the oven, so they're ready for high temperatures, and they have this cover, which is great. So you just can just like block it so the heat keeps inside, and this works really well, and you can find it in supermarkets. So you can keep the hot temperature, the hot water inside. However, once you get the temperature right, once you get the pH right and everything, you need to keep checking every 15-20 minutes if you are not getting any bubbles. And as you can see here from the yellowish that we have, is staining. You have to keep on looking and see and controlling the pH with your pH strips if it's the pH is not changing, and if the results that you want. Once you have it here, how long it takes to get the results that you want? Big question. Depends. Depends on everything that I just said, on the temperature, on the water, on the hardness of the water, the humidity of the room that you're working in. Everything is a factor for this. So it could take more than 4 hours. It can take 1 hour. It can take 20 minutes if you have very concentrated mother roots, which is not the best case because you will get a more brownish kind of outcome. So just this is the part where you just have to go and try it by yourself and see which is the best timing for you and your hometown. So once we finish with our mother roots and we take it out from our tray, we are looking for this kind of purplish. Okay, I don't know if you see it right. It's not brown. It's not, I don't know in which camera you see it better. It's not brown, it's not red, it's not orange, it's purple. Okay, this is very important because I had different outcomes. When I got this tone, it was a tone that afterwards worked better in any type of photos that I'm doing. Also, this is a more conventional kind of photos, let's say, that I'm working with. Maybe you've seen more of my project, Colors of Cuba project, which I'm going to show. Just so you know that depending on the images that you're using, on the negatives that you're using, you can have different kind of outcomes. And so don't worry, it's just experimental techniques. So just try them. And I don't have them here. I have them here. All right. And so for example, for the project of Colors of Cuba, if you're trying something more experimental, sometimes when you're doing the different layers, you see that your image is totally gone, but it's okay, depending on the negative that you're getting. For example, this project I was using a film soup film that I bought 2 years ago here in the Experimental Photo Festival from a very good photographer called Gonchi Rostan, if you want to check it out. And he was giving these films, and I went to Cuba with this film soup with that he use different wines. And then the outcomes are very different. For example, when we are doing the blue layer, can you see it right?
Someone is saying that it's better.
Like this is better? Okay. So when you're getting the blue layer, you're getting these results on the different, when I was getting the blue layer from my other picture, that is somewhere here. La azul. No, lo hemos perdido. Sorry, it was here and now it's.
Is the same one with another phone?
No, o sea, maybe it's esta segunda, yesterday one. Okay, no, da igual. It was the one that I'm using now for the toning. Sorry, too late. So this is another. When you get here, for example, and you want to bleach it, you will see it like that. So you're losing the whole image. But don't worry, because when you're going to use the mother roots, you are going to get the image again. Okay, so you can see it here. I wanted to show this image because this is a series of very different negatives. This was really complicated to get, but just to let you know that depends on the photo that you have, you will have different outcomes. You will have different curves and different. Well, you have to play with it. And also, as you can see, the difference on the color, this is the most purple, as you can see here on the border. This is really purple compared to the colors that I used to have. So you have to learn to see your images and to know the purple that you're going to get to your images. So you just have to learn and play with your photos. Okay? So these are the red that you're looking for. This is really, really important for the Tricolor Cyanotype. Okay, I don't know if there are any questions from there. No? Okay. So now, once we have the magenta layer and we have it, we have to clean it. We put it in water after we tone it. Okay, and we let it dry. My best, if I have to say it, is better to let it dry naturally. Don't use hair dryer. But if you're in a rush or you're doing a workshop or whatever, of course you can use a hair dryer, but try not to use it, as in all the layers of cyanotype. All of you guys that have been working with cyanotype, is not the best option to use a hair dryer. But if you're in a rush, of course you can always use it. Okay. So once we have our magenta, we need to use the other layers, no? So now we are going to prepare our next negative, which is going to be the yellow negative. Okay, so for this, we get our magenta photo that is already super dry. And we are going to coat it again with our cyanotype emulsion. As I said before, try to be as uniform as possible throughout all the image. If you have borders and you want them to see the borders of your image, of course you can play with it to see the brushes that they are around the image, and then you can see the 3 different colors around the image, which is also a very good idea. But throughout the image, so throughout the where you want to see the image, try to be as uniform as possible. Questions?
Okay. dry, darker after drying. If they were darker, if they go darker
It goes darker after you have printed it.
after drying,
No,
it doesn't go darker.
no, it doesn't go darker. Once you see like when you take it out from the wet, from the wet magenta, when you're toning it, you're taking it out, you clean it, you take out the magenta that you don't need, the toning that you don't need, and it's going to be like that. How you've seen it now is how I saw it when I clean it. So it's not going to get darker. It's not cyanotype. The emulsion has stopped. So so it's not going to get darker and darker. So once it has stopped and you've cleaned it, it's done.
Mother donor solution hot during the 1-2 hours over a stove.
Yeah, no, I just try to keep it in these trays where you have the cover. Is the best way to keep them warm. The aluminum works really well to keep the warmth inside the container. That's why I recommend if you can use these trays and you can put this kind of trays and you put aluminum foil on the top, or if you're using the trays that go to the oven, they really keep the temperature. That's why they are great. So if you can use these oven kind of cooking things, they're this cooking tools work really well. I really don't cook. I just do photography with them.
Okay, can you use the mother solution for different pictures?
No. No, I have to say that it has like a concentration of tannins inside in the mother roots in the water. Once you filtered the mother roots, and if you can try it, and I've tried it. So once you put a photo inside and you get the result that you want, you take it out and you want to put another one, although the water is still hot, it's not going to tone as good as the other one. You will get a really faint tone, but you're not going to get this like strong purple that you're looking for. It's not working because the tannins are already, let's say, used. Like the other photo has taken all the concentration or the concentration required. So there's not going to be any left for the other one.
There is one comment, can you read it yourself se lo puedes hacer más grande in the chat? The hair dryers should be used.
Should be used on cool settings only.
Can you read it so then
Yes,
people who
exactly. That's why it's what I've been saying. If you want to, I'm not a fan of using a hair dryer. That's a good point, because if you want to use it, the cool, of course, it's the best way if you need to use it. But sometimes if you need to, you're doing some strips and you just are trying out some stuff, or you're in a workshop or whatever, sometimes you need to use the hots. Try not to use the hottest one, and from a distance. But of course, as you said in the comment, your name is Barbara. Barbara, I'm totally with you not to use the hair dryer, and if you use it, only in the cool mode. Yes. Luego de blanquearlo, se debe esperar a que se seque para colocarlo en mother root. Es mejor colocarlo apenas se blanquee. Shall I answer in Spanish or
in English?
in English? Okay. Okay, so it's better if you after you bleach it, put it in tap water, normal water. So you take the sodium carbonate that is remaining, and then put it inside the mother roots. I have to say that when I do it like that, when it's from the image that is already soaked, so it's wet to the water, to the mother roots, I don't get so many bubbles as if when I do it when it's dry to wet, so to water. I get less bubbles, so less interferences on my image, and I think the result is better. If someone of you have tried another way and you think it's better for you when it's dry, then this is, I think, just outcomes that you get. But in my case, I've tried both ways, and for me, it's way better when it's wet. Okay, great. So if there is no more questions, okay. So once we code our next layer of cyanotype, so you can see it like that. We are going to put the yellow. Sorry. Now we're going to put the yellow negative on top. So also comes the tricky part. That's why I said before that if you soak beforehand the paper before starting all the process, when you're going to do that, you are going to see that the negative and the photo are perfectly in the same position. If you're not soaking it before, sometimes it can happen that the paper expands from the heat because we are using hot water, so it's expanding because it has cotton in it. So when you put the second negative, it doesn't match. This has happened. It has happened to me. So that's why it's important that you soak it before. Okay. There are different negatives, different images. So sometimes you get very hard negatives, and it's very difficult to get it right in the same position than the negative and the image. So there is this light table that you can use if you want. I think the cable was here. Very much. So you have this light table. I hope you can see it. Yeah, very professional. You can find it on Amazon. It's not very expensive. Once you get to know your negatives and your images, and for example, this image that I'm showing, it's quite easy because I have a lot of black and white, and also in the image you can see it really clear. But there are images it's not as clear. So if you're using the light table, I don't know if you can see it very well. Well, I don't know how to show it, but you are going just to make sure that you put the negative in the right position. Vale, todo. Voy. I don't know if I can do it. Wait, let me check if I can do it. I'm not in the other camera. Also, once these are tips that you can use or not. Once you are placing it and you have it in the right position, I recommend using Scotch or this artist tape, that it doesn't take out the emulsion or anything. And normally I just take out as much as the tape as possible, so it's not super sticky. So now I'm going to do it.
Pregunta si el sisal es una preparación química, ¿no?
¿El qué?
Sisal.
El sisal es una preparación, es más una preparación química, ¿no? Como un prefijador, y lo del agua caliente es para dilatar. El sisado no sé. And we don't understand the She means soaking the paper in water before the whole process. Yeah, maybe, sorry, my English. If I'm not saying the right terms, but yes, it's Exactly. It's just to soak in the paper before the whole process in hot water. So so exactly. So it expands. I don't. It doesn't say it like that. It's like it doesn't change the like the fibers in between the cotton fibers in between the paper. It doesn't like expand. So it doesn't change kind of the size of the paper. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Okay. So I'm going to try to put it like that and see if you can see it better. Oh, yeah, here.
Yes.
So see? So if I move it a little bit, right, see that you can see like the yellow, like that it's not in the perfect position. So you need to make sure, now I took it out, but you need to make sure that it's placed. See, suddenly you don't see the image underneath. And here you can see the white parts. So if you see it like that, the negative will be in the wrong position. So you try to put it because it's like each layer has their own black and whites or their own information. So you need to place it on the right place to get the color information that you need for your image. Hope this makes sense. Okay, so once we've placed it, this table is very useful. I have to say that I've been using it a lot with many complicated negatives. So I'm just placing it on also people that I know some of you are doing beautiful duotones. And so I guess you're familiar with this technique and this process. Okay, so once we have it, we are just going to expose it again. So we're going to use another time our glass. Of course, in all the process, when we're painting our cyanotype layer, we need to let it dry. And as Barbara said before, let it dry as natural as possible, so not to use the hair dryer, of course. And if you're using it, please try to be cool hair dryer. Okay, so once we have it again with our glass and it's everything is ready, we expose it. So this is, as you can read here, this is the yellow layer. It's on the other way around, right? Okay, so this is the yellow negative. So we are going to do the yellow layer. So this is another tip. I normally expose it 2 times. I used to expose it 3 times more than the magenta layer or the blue layer. But in this new series of negative of images I'm doing, 2 times is working better for me. So you just have to play 2, 3 more times, depending. But for sure, you need to expose it more than the other 2 negatives. Okay, this is the only thing. But then you have to try it on your images to see which one is better for you. Okay, so we expose it again with our UV light or the sun, if you are somewhere that you can use the sun. Okay, and we're going to, once you get the result, you have to clean it on the water as we did before. So as a cyanotype process, exactly the same. We're going to take this out. So once you clean it, we have here the tray. So imagine we are going to take out the yellow from the cyanotype and we're going to get this blue. And this is the result that we are going to get. You can see it right. So I don't know if you can see the difference, but here now we have more information with like yellow information that we didn't have before. Okay, so we have it blue. So what we're going to do next is we need to bleach it because we are doing the yellow layer. So we need to get the yellow again because before we bleach to tone. Now we are going to bleach to get the yellow. Okay? So once we have it clean, as I said, 10, 12 minutes to get all the cyanotype emulsion remaining that we hasn't been exposed, it's out. This is very important for the process to really clean it. Don't be impatient. Like just wait for it, really clean. If you need to change water, change them, but make sure it's really, really clean. Because if not, then the reaction will be happening in places of the image that you don't want to. Okay? So, any questions? Si se pone dos veces, serían dos veces el mismo tiempo. Por ejemplo, si el negro mantén pusimos un minuto, con el amarillo igual serían dos veces un minuto. Sí, exactly. Sí, exactly. If you expose it 2 times with the yellow, it's 2 times the yellow, yes. The same time, exactly. So yeah, so once we have it like that, we are going to bleach it again. So we get our tray. No, don't worry. We're going to get our tray where we have, and we're going to prepare again. Now we have it here, and it's cold, so it's not going to be very useful. But we're going to prepare again the bleach, as we said before. Hot water, not boiling water, and just a tablespoon of the bleach. Okay, we prepare exactly the same as this was hot water. Don't worry, just to show it the outcome. Here we have the hot water, and we just kind of more or less tablespoon of the bleach. If it's one of the first times that you're doing this, or the water of that place, you can check the pH so you can see the difference. The one that we used before was this one too, so you can see the color that we used before for the mother roots. And now that we are bleaching, I'm going to have this color, this pH. You see? Now it's around 9. I don't know if you can. Okay. See, it's very high. So we're going to bleach it. So you can see how we are introducing this new chemist, and then the pH of the water is changing. So we are going to put the one that we've cleaned for a while, and we are going to bleach it. And we leave it the time that is required. Don't rush. It has to be really, really yellow. But this is a little bit more difficult to see. We didn't remove it, right? So that's why you're seeing here really yellow and not the rest, but it's getting there. So you will see that the whole photo turned into a yellowish image. But you also have the mother root, so I'm going to take this out. And the result that you're going to see is this one. Okay, so you can see back again the red from the mother roots and the yellow from the bleach. So you can see the mother roots. We have cleaned all the cyanotype exposure layer, and we can see another time the yellow. I don't. see from here, this part over here, we can see the yellow information that before we couldn't see. Everything was purple, kind of reddish, and now we can see it. I know because we exposed it. So now we can see this information that we couldn't see before. So this is important because when you bleach it, you need to look for the yellow part to see that you really are taking all the cyanotype from there. So really you clean it and you bleach it. Just wait, no rush. You can leave it on the bleach all the time that you want. When it reaches the full bleach, it can't bleach any longer. So don't rush. Leave it on the bleach and so you can get the proper yellow. So we are arriving to the final part of the part.
The mother looks brown purple. Yes.
Yes, because now you have the yellow in between. So you got it. I'm going to clean the one that I exposed before so you can see the difference. But it comes from this purple. I'm going to clean it. Hope it didn't get exposed here from the sun the UV that we have here from the window. I'm going to try to clean it so for you to see the difference between both of them. Do we have another tissue, please?
Yes.
Dry it, Teresa. So you can see the difference. It has been a little bit exposed, but so you can get the idea. We're coming from this purple. We're coming from this purple and we're getting the purple with the yellow. So this is the purple, it's still a little bit, so you can see from the two cameras. So this is purple, this is the purple one. So just the mother roots, and this is the mother roots with the yellow layer. So mother roots and bleach afterwards. Okay, so you can see here the difference. I can leave them around here if you want. So I can, and this is the yellow that we had before, the mother root. So here you can, I don't have the blue because we already exposed it. Sorry. Okay. So once we are in this point right now. Okay, so we need to expose the last layer, which is the blue negative. So the one that we always work with, that we are used to work with the cyanotype, is the one that we're going to use, no? Because it's the last part. So now we can use again the light table, or if you know the negative and you can see it like in this one, it's very, I don't know if you can see it from here also, it's very clear when you move the negative and you're placing it in the right space, you can see that you don't see these white lines from the image. Okay, so it depends. If you are confident to not use a light table, you prefer using a light table, you want to have a different result, you can also try it without the light table and see how it becomes. So once you've placed it right, sorry, I forgot, before placing it, you need to coat again. Sorry for that.
Is asking if before placing the blue negative, we have to put another time cyanotype.
Yeah, sorry, that's a point that I forgot. Thank you for that. Collaborative online workshop. Yes, sorry. So I don't want to paint this because more people are going to use this one. So I'm going to paint the table that I can clean it afterwards. So yeah, so we have to coat it before. Sorry for that. As I said before, make sure it's as uniform as possible when you're coating it. Now I'm going a little bit fast because we don't have a lot of time. So when it's all painted right, you can say like that. And as we discussed before, we have to let it dry. And when it's totally dry, we place it again. I'm not waiting to it to be dry, of course. And we put the last negative, as I said before, placing it as good as possible on top. Now it's minus bit, but and we place it and we expose it. This for the blue layer, I recommend to expose it the same time that you expose the first layer, so the magenta layer. And because if you think you need more blue, you need more information, you can always expose again the blue layer. You can expose the blue layer as many times as you want until you get the result that you want. But it's better to look at it, take a look, and see if you need to expose it again. Normally, when you expose it at the same time as a magenta, the results, I have to say, are very good, but there are times when you have images where, I don't know, you have a photo that you have a lot of blue sky or water from the sea or whatever, so you want to expose or see more the information of the blue from the photo, you can expose it more. That is, of course, what the photo is requiring or the outcome that you want. Okay, so we expose it again. Is there a question? No, I'm using all the time the same here. I prepare it from the beginning and it's the same brush, cup, everything. It's exactly the same for the 3 layers. I'm just putting, like, when I'm painting on the dark and then I expose it. Now we are here in the same room, but it's all the time the same one. So once we expose,
which formula you're using?
The 2510, 25 from cianuro férrico.
Ferric gum.
See, ferric gum, and then the 10 from the. I have the. I don't have the names in Spanish, but it's 25 grams of ammoniac of citratium. And we are looking for the names in English. Sorry, I don't know them. Ferricianuro potásico y citrato de amoníaco. Ferricianuro potásico? Oh, I have here my notebook. Because I normally prepare a lot. Potassium ferricyanide, I use 10 grams and 7 milliliters of water, of distilled of the distilled water, or destilada, distilled water, and 25 milligrams of citrato de amoníaco. Sorry. Ammonium citrate, I use 25 grams in 100 milliliters of distilled water. I know there are new formulas that are using the same quantity from one on another. I have to say, maybe I'm one of the classic ones that are still using this formula. And then, of course, half and half from A and B, which is super important for all of you guys that are doing cyanotype. Doing half and half for A and B, it's super, 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 super important.
We will share it on the PDF, right? The formula?
Yes. I didn't think about the formula because I thought everybody knew how to prepare cyanotype, but of course I can redo the PDF and send.
Or we send it in the email.
Or we send it an email with the little questions that from the web page of the mother roots and stuff like that if you want. Of course, yes, we are writing one. Nona and Laura are writing everything down for me, so I can send you the information. Okay, so once we expose the, if there's any other questions? Okay, so once we've exposed the last negative, and we've changed the water, that we haven't changed it, so we change the water every time we need to clean. We just put the last cyanotype inside. You leave it 10, 12 minutes until it's super clean, and then you get your last results. And you can see the yellow. The yellow, in my case, for example, the red was more orangey because the puffins have more orange part of the, I don't know how to call it in English, it's part over here. The pig, no, the beak. I was going to say beck, but I think it's in Catalan. Sorry. So here it's, but you can see the difference of color, the tonalities between these parts over here that we are getting the information of the yellow, and then we have here the orange, reddish kind of information, and then the blue helps us to give more the final tonalities and give us like the green kind of colors that we have on the image, so we have this result. From the other for example, image that I was showing you,
which type of photography you recommend to start learning this process?
What kind of photography?
Do you recommend any special photography? Does it have to have any special thing in the photo? Minimal, landscape?
I recommend that you, well, of course I will go for wildlife because it's my thing, but no, whichever you feel comfortable with. I mean, if you can find, for example, landscapes normally are very grateful with this kind of technique because if you can find these places, I don't know, in autumn that you have orange, you have red, you have, I don't know, a landscape on the sea and stuff like that. So you have the different colors, so you can start working to get, instead of going maybe on photos that have a lot of orange and not have a lot of red, maybe start with red to see if you're getting the mother roots, the results that you want to. So I think the most difficult part of it is to get the red. Once you get a photo with the red that you more or less can control, you can, let's say, reproduce. I don't like to say like that, but because I think this technique makes all the images unique because it's very difficult to reproduce. But once you get the reds as good as you would like to, then you can start playing with the different tonalities that can give you the mother roots. But I mean, landscape would be a nice choice. Portraits are very nice to work with duotone. I have to say the outcome that you can get from the skin in duotones are very, very, very beautiful. And we have here connected to one photographer that does very beautiful duotones. I really like her work. And so yeah, at the end, any type of photography that you like, everything is great. But to show you also a little bit of the results that I was showing you before that I was showing you the difference between when you have these, for example, these photos that were a little bit complicated because it was a film soup photos. Here is when we get the mother root, just the mother roots. And here when we get the mother roots with the yellow bleach. So you can see the difference, and you can see the yellow information around the image that you're not getting with the mother roots. And then we put the blue on top, and you can see here a lot of information with blue, and you can get more yellow, more red around the trousers. I don't know if you can see it right from there. Maybe I can show you another image, for example. And here in this image, I don't know if you can see it right here. You can see red, or maybe I don't know if you see it right. I think with the one with the puffin, you can see better the difference of colors. Also, I have to say that now that I showed you the results of the puffin, it was not always like that. It has been a lot of time to get the results also that I want. Here you can see different results. Also painting, because I was really tired to not getting the orange that I wanted, so I started like painting it. So you can see that I've been trying. Also here you have, for example, an example, I don't know if you can see it right, of the image when I didn't put the negative in the right place. So you can see like the movement inside the photo. So yes, I've tried many things. And also another thing that is interesting, it's for example, this is an image of the same day that I did this one, and you can see the difference. I think it's quite clear from different papers. Also, the papers, that's why I started talking about the papers, because I've seen a massive difference on the papers that I'm using. This is a water color Hanamulla paper, which is not platinum black, which is a very good paper, and I really love it, but it just didn't come as I was expecting. Maybe I just need to try the pH and try different waters and try different curves with this paper. Maybe I'm just more used to working with the other paper, and the curves that I'm working with are prepared for these other papers. So depending on the paper that you are going to use, you will see the result that you prefer. Also, I have here, you cannot see super well, but the difference of the information that you can get from this is, I think it was Fabriano. I used to work with this paper from another project, just with cyanotype, and it worked really well. It got the texture that I was expecting. But when I was working with these images, I just didn't get the information that I was looking for. But this is really very personal, so this depends on each one. But as you can see, the colors are totally different, so you need to test the color, the curves, the negatives, everything that you prepare for your paper, for your water, for your pH, for everything that you're working with. You have to adapt it. This is what I've been seeing and trying, and also these images that you can see over here. This was done the same day. This is what I was telling, but these ones were done different parts of Barcelona and different parts of Catalonia. This one was in the mountains, and this one was different parts of Barcelona. So the water really changes a lot, and it was exactly the same negative that I've been using here. So it's just trying and be patient with all the steps, with the cleaning, with waiting until the cyanotype is dry. Clean it well from one process to the other one, and I think this is unchecked. And you can see here the difference of the pH that we've been using today, which is very, very important.
One thing, can you read yourself the question? If so, they are recorded later. If I say anything, they don't miss the.
Which one? Which one?
Let's start from.
I guess you could get green by layering short exposure cyan over some of the yellow. Yes or no? Depends on the curves of your cyan. Depends on the on how you, yeah, on the curves basically. If you want to get a greenish outcome, or because with the blue it's tricky if you've been working with the blue layer. Depends on the concept you're going to use after the yellow and how it's going to react. I think it more for time is the curves. Of course, if you want to get more blue outcome, you need to give it more time, because of course the blue will be the one that at the end will be coming and coming and coming from the cyanotype reaction. This is of course. So if you want to get green, you will need less time, but I think you will need to play with the curves. Does this translate well with fabric? Hi, you're already spoiling. It's a spoiler. I'm working on it. I still don't know. I still cannot tell yet. Very soon to tell. I hope next year I can tell something else about fabric. In another layer before the final glue, like I don't understand. Like in another layer before the final glue. I think Susan, I think your question was that I forgot to paint the layer before exposing it. Maybe it was that. Now I don't understand your.
No, I meant my question got cut in two. So I was asking whether once you have the yellow, if you could do a third layer that was a very brief exposure of cyan, wash the whole, but not including the blue negative, the yellow negative again, but very brief to get it green. And then wash the thing off, and then do a fourth layer that would be your blue. So you could have, technically speaking, I guess, red, yellow, green,
blue.
I don't know if it work.
I haven't. Very, very good question. I haven't tried. I could try it. I will look for green images and try it. Very, very interesting. I haven't approached that.
Okay, thanks. I will try it and let you know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I will try it too, and let's keep in touch so we can share the results. Very interesting.
Now I'm doing duotones with cyanotype, and if you mix the yellow part with the blue part, and both layers are not super dark, the mix of them turn green, like yellow and blue.
Exactly. So yes, exactly. So that's what we were wondering, if you want to get like the green also, because you're maybe losing the information if you expose more time just the cyan, maybe expose the yellow negative a little bit to get green on top of the yellow. But I'm afraid that you will lose the information of the yellow. I have to try that, but maybe you will lose too much yellow. I don't know. I need to try that.
Worried about, but most of my pictures have leaves and they're mostly green with very little yellow.
There you go. Then I think it's great that you try it if you don't have a lot of yellow. And if you have green, it's what I was saying. Like at the end, you have to adapt this technique to your photos. Like you have the photos doesn't have to adapt to the technique. The technique has to be adapted to your photo. So yeah, maybe this is a very good approach. I think it's good to try it and see how it comes. I don't see it. Yeah, this translate. ¿Cuánto tiempo, años puede durar una imagen en el papel? Respetándolo las 3 tonalidades. How long can tricolor cyanotype with this exposure can last? I've been working with this technique around 2.5 years, but I can tell if you clean it right, it's like cyanotype. If you clean it right and you take all the possible non-specific chemicals from where it wasn't exposed, and I guess like cyanotype, you don't have it in straight light, but I guess any picture or any I don't know, like I think you can keep it forever. Do the highlights lighten on their own during the process, or you can do something to make the white a little bit brighter? Yes, this is a very good point because I used to have very dark outcomes a while ago, so I went to where I started with the Photoshop, and when I did the one of the steps that is the bright that I say when you see it again on the PDF and it's +10 now. I used to do it around +50, so I was losing a lot of highlights because remember I'm doing this brightening after the inversion of the image, so I'm getting more darks. Let's say when you're doing a bright, when you're brightening the Photoshop because you're working in the inversion of the image. So I went lower and lower and lower, and that's why I'm working with a +10 to get the more highlights of my images. I hope this answers the question. Pero no, the mother, la otra no es esta. Gives a true red though, or if okay, the mother never gives a true bright red through or even clear pink. Doesn't give you a true red. Yes, it does. I don't have now here an image with. I have here. You cannot see it right. This red, but no, a ver, se ve, es que no me veo, puedo. A ver si se ve esto, si no sé si tengo alguna otra imagen. Oh, you see it here, the red. It looks like very kind of orangey, but it's red. Laura, it's red. You can see the difference, and it really gives you red. Of course, this image, for example, that the towel it was used, that was the shirt that it's here, it's not super red, but you get really red images. I think now Annette has a new on her webpage. You can check the last images that she posted, and there is like a sheet, and you can really see like super red. Like there is one image because well, of course I'm in love with the next project, but you can see those images and you have like a bright red. It's beautiful. It's reflections.com or something. Reflectionon.com, I think, is her webpage, and you have to check it out, and you will see the red there. It's, I mean, you tell me if you don't get them with the mother, you don't get the red, because it's crazy beautiful. Okay. For all those trials, did you use the same negative, and did you change only the water, emulsion, etc.? Yes, for these ones, I used exactly the same negatives. I have other trial. I didn't bring the other ones that I use with different negatives, because I think I don't have any left, because I threw them all because I didn't like the results and I was kind of frustrated. So in this case, I was changing the pH of the water, the hardener of the water, and the time of exposure. But the emulsion and everything, I always, like, I prepare mine and I always use exactly the same. Those I don't change it, because I can control how I paint it. I control my emulsion, because I control my cyanotypes normally by just looking at them. So when I expose it to the sun, so the emulsion is exactly the same. A ver, pero es más, había más arriba.
Es que no has contestado antes, ¿no?
Ah, vale, ¿puedes repetir, por favor? Vale, bueno, ya está. Vale. I think it's this one, Hanemule, vale. Me imagino que los ajustes de las curvas que nos recomiendas tiene que ver con el rango dinámico de la fórmula. ¿Funciona mejor algo de alto contraste? Yes, and the contrast that I'm using is the highest, and then in the curves, I adapted to the ones that have been working better for this new project for me, to get the contrast that I prefer. But yes, at the end is with your images, the contrast that you want, the formula that you want to get, and you adapt it. You will see, and it's in the PDF, the curves. You can start with the curves that Annette proposes, and then try mine, and then try yours, or depend. You have to try them. For example, I was surprised talking with different people that do cyanotype or duotones, that they had they had curves for the cyanotype negative. And maybe a lot of people will hate me for this, but I've never used curves for my negative my negative for cyanotype. I just use Photoshop to put it black and white, invert it, and then I just adjust as I want the contrast that I want, just by looking at it, just going up and down to the contrast of the highlights, and that's it. And then I just take the time that I think it's good exposed. So I was never really using like a formula for my cyanotypes. So I'm also getting used to these kind of formulas, and to understand how the curves are working differently with the different channels. Because I used to do it just by looking at it, and I was very happy with the results. But I know that a lot of people use the test, the grayscale test with the cyanotype, and then they adapt the formula to the blue that they want to get from those test strips from the different grayscale. And you can use that, and from that you can try to see how can you get the different curves on your image. But I've been trying from working with the colors and seeing the results that I want, that I prefer. Maybe someone else would like to have more vivid colors, I really like that my photos are in between painting and photography. So maybe this is why I go for these results. But maybe that formula is working best for me. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying. So just you have just to try it with your images to see the formula that works best for you. And if you want to try the test strip beforehand, I know a lot of photographers or cyanotype photographers do it, and it worked really well for them. I didn't start it with that. I started with just trying and look at it, and from there just adapting. Do you? Sorry, I'm just. Do you usually use another color photos or just to get your negatives from? And there is any difference in terms of informal and resolution for this Tricolor technique? Also, very saturated photos are more usable for Tricolor Cyanotype. A ver, analog or digital? Both. Both are perfect. Most of my wildlife images are digital because my equipment is digital. I cannot take the photos that I want with analog. I would love to, but I don't have a very light tele, so I use digital. And the other images that I was showing, for example, the project of the colors of Cuba, are these ones are analog. All of these ones, all of these are analog images. So depends. Saturated or not saturated. If you want to see a big difference between the colors, of course, it's better to see it to have saturated images so you can see a big difference. Depends on the results that you want. If it was like if I have to say once you start, as someone asked me before for the red or what kind of photography you should start with this technique, I would say go for pictures that have these blue, red, and yellow colors that you can see clearly, so you can start playing from there. So you can start experimenting. But very different colors, like they're very different saturations. And from there you start working. Because if you start with this kind of more suitable, like that you don't have this contrast, then you don't know if you're getting the colors right. I think it's the best option. But then if you don't like this kind of images, you just have to work with the kind of images that you like. And also I have to say that not all the photos for me have resulted good for this technique. There are some photos that I just have to that are not suitable for this technique, or that I don't like how they look with this technique. I will show you some. Now we finish the questions. A ver, una pregunta, porfa. Your transparencies and negativos printed with pigment, dye, or laser jet. I have found the density of negative to block UV. I think good questions. My negative prints, I think they are laser prints, but no, it's for sure they are not. They cannot be inkjet because I'm not printing them at home. I go to a copy place that they printed. They print them for me. I used to have problems with that, but so many years ago that because I used to print it at home, but it was inkjet. Then I tried with warm that they stamp like over the acetate transparency, and I was having a lot of troubles with that. And now I go to this. I will ask the guy with kind of printer he uses, because now I think it's laser, because what I think it's the faster way. So the also once you print it, the emulsion doesn't go away. I think it's laser. Okay. Did you try the last layer, the blue one, with what lens? Oh, with wedge. Woo. No. No, when I work with the wet cyanotype, I work with more objects or plants or something that I don't expect like perfect quality, like you see perfectly the image or something. I particularly don't like wet cyanotype when I'm working with photos, because I'm losing too much information. Because like you can see the photos that I'm doing, they have a lot of information that when I'm working with animals, I just like the details, and I can try it. I can try it and and open a new door for me with cyanotype, which I think the results are amazing. But I just do it when I'm working with plants or objects or so, which is super fun. But no, I haven't tried it. New thing to try. Laser jet, dale. Sí, probably. I think it's laser. Cuando haces una imagen, entonces la haces en un mismo de los tres. Cuando haces una imagen, entonces la haces en un mismo de los tres tonos. Ay, no estoy.
You do the same at the same day, in the same day, the 3 tones.
Ah. Depends on the time that day the mother root needs. If it takes 1 hour, if it takes 2 hours, the mother roots. Yes, I try it on the same day, but normally, as I want to make sure that each step is dry, the cyanotype is dry. It has when I bleach it, it's the right bleach. I don't rush into it. It normally takes me a couple of days to do the whole process. And also with the mother roots, you cannot tell every time if you're going to be for 1 hour, 4 hours. So depends on the photo and the day. No, I don't. Oh, it's not caja de luz. No, if I use UV, I use these UV lamps, which I just place them on the table and my image is on a bench. I do it like that, very, very, very homemade. I don't use, I haven't made my own box, because also I work with very different sizes of images. I really like to work with big images. I don't know why I really like, it impresses me all the time, the big images. So it's very complicated to get a very big box of UV. And also, if I can do it, I rather do my cyanotypes with sunlight instead of doing it inside.
It's more complex with the
With this UV. No. I normally do 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes exposure with this UV, but because I know also the distance from the table to my bench. I know the distance and I've tried and I know. And also I guess you guys, if you've done a lot of cyanotypes, you just see it. You see when you're exposing it, you see how the color of the emulsion changes, and you know like when it's ready, like when it's cooked. you, I guess that after doing so many, you just get your eyes used to it, and you know when it's done. That's why I like to do it on sunlight, because it's like I'm part of the process. I'm controlling more, and I just get used to looking at, and I like to see how it gets cooked. I don't know. I love this process.
No more questions.
More questions? I don't know if I don't know where I left my other images. Maybe to show the image I had. But I have the good ones over here. Well, never mind. I had more examples to show you. Let's see how it's here, but I have more examples, but I'll see them. Well, never mind. It's fine, no? Es que no hemos probado la
Cyanotype formula.
yeah, I can, the formula, how much you use for what we said before, the 10 grams and 25 grams. Yes, I can sell it, no problems. It's a typical one, eh? It's nothing very special. It's a classic one. I know people now are using 10 grams of each chemist, each product with 100 milliliters. I guess a lot of you guys that are watching this are using it this way because you don't use so much one of the chemists, you don't use as much, but I'm using the classical way, but I can send you my way, no problem. Hi, Cristina. Gracias. Is the mother lake made of fruits dark red you get from creamer? No. No, I will send, don't worry, from Creamer Pigmente, I will send you the link, but it's because I'm not able to reproduce what says here in German. Rubia Tinctorum. I will send you the link, no problem. I can share you all the information that I have.
Have you used negatives? Negatives in big format?
Yes. Yes, I have A0 negatives, which is a bit complicated because it's not like this. You don't have the black and transparent part so clear when I'm using the big formats. And I go to a special copy place to print them because it's a place here in Barcelona that is specifically for architectures, because they use these big for you doing their presentations, and they have like these special printers for their maps, let's say. So I go there and they print it there, but it's a vegetal paper, so it's not as transparent. So I'm getting there with that tricolor. I'm getting there. Not easy, but it's different.
I will just reply to one of these interesting questions to talk a bit about you. On this process influence your artistic research. It's about glowing process comparing with normal cyanotypes.
Oof. Well, I've been working with cyanotype for many years, and I have to say it really makes sense with my project. I have something with nature that like it's just bigger than me, and I love taking pictures of wildlife, especially birds. And it just makes sense, the process of cyanotype, that I was developing my project using the sunlight. So developing nature using nature, for me, it was like, I always take pictures. I enjoyed the pictures, but then I didn't show them because I felt like there was like no circle, like there was no identity on them. And then I started with the cyanotype, and it just, everything makes sense with when I was printing them in cyanotype. But then I guess with all the techniques, that you just want to get to know more and more and more, and I was just curious how I wanted to go to color. I think that nature has beautiful colors, and I try to make my projects about a positive vibe. Like I try to work with environmental and conservation projects related to wildlife. And most of the project that I was seeing was kind of sad, from a negative kind of perspective, from my point of view. And I wanted to show something positive, like, okay, we need to work with conservation of the wildlife, but I'm going to try and give you the positive vibe. And there was something about the colors from nature that for me was very beautiful, and I don't know, you just fell in love with the colors of the birds, with they little birds with so many colors, like green, yellow, blue. Like how can they get all these colors? And for me, just keeping the blue, just the information of how beautiful this bird is, but not giving the colors out. For me, I was kind of losing something, but I didn't want to give up on cyanotype. So I just needed to find a way of expressing what I feel about nature, what I want to show with this technique, and I needed to find a way. It's a long process, but I think, like everything that matters, that it's long, is complicated, but I think it's worth it once you like it. And I have to say, I love spending time in the studio working, writing down the formulas and everything. Also, this is my little lab. After doing my PhD, I didn't go back to the lab, and I needed my little lab at home. So this is my little lab, and still my little science on it. So I don't know, it just fulfills me, all the process, although it's really hard sometimes. Hi, thank you so much. So I think nature is a big inspiration, and makes sense to go to color. Nice places later. Also, it's kind of, yes. It's meditative time. And also, I have to say, if you guys are going to try this process, and not to get frustrated, it's very hard sometimes. When you get the first results, it's like magic. I guess if some of you have worked with analog and you have worked in a dark room, and when you print your first images, are magic, but you have to do the test prints. You have to, you won't get the good results. You're not getting the white where you want. You're not getting the black where you want. You just have to try. And I think it's a very nice process, and I think we can all learn from each other. And I guess if I go to any parts of the world, and I can ask you guys, how is the water working for you, and I can learn from you, and I think we can all learn from each other. So that's why I also wanted to do this workshop, because I think it's super cool that we are able to interact and to share different opinions. Like, I haven't thought about the green, and I don't know, I'm sure you guys are going to try things I haven't thought about, and I just wanted to share that I've been thinking in a very scientific way of water, pH, and blah, blah, blah. And if this helps someone that was stuck with the process, then great. And if you have any other suggestions, then I'm super happy to work with them. Okay. Can the sun be used to bleach the cyanotype at some point in the process? The sun is your you like it's the resource that you need. Sorry, the resource that you need to expose and to make the cyanotype work. You cannot. You need to. Well, I haven't tried to bleach with the sun. I don't know how I would do that. I would really. But I guess no, because you need the sun is the energy of the cyanotype process. So I guess you need to expose it, but not to bleach it. But if you have any idea on how to do it, just please let us know.